Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Mitch, and welcome to episode 1 of the Mitchell Orth Show podcast. I'm super excited that this is happening right now, and it's a show where we're going to sit down with people of all walks of life, try to unpack them, what makes them tick, where they are in their lives, where they're going, where they've been, all sorts of jazz. Today, I am excited to announce my first guest on the show. We're kicking it off with my long-term friend, Sam Phillips. Sammy, what's cooking, brother?
Yo, my long-term brother. What's happening?
Long-term brother from another mother. Yeah. What's up, man? Love the hat. Loving the digs.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah, it's spring and I'm just really feeling it. So.
Although outside it's not really spring-feely today, is it? We're in a miserable, wet, rainy day. And I think we're up for a miserable, wet, rainy weekend.
Oh, well, speak for yourself. I might be up for a joyful, rainy weekend.
It doesn't need to be miserable. You're right. It could be a rainy, excitable weekend.
Looks like we're in for a...
What are you doing tomorrow if it rains out like it says we're going to get it? What are you doing? What do you do to spend time indoors when the sun ain't shining?
Well, there's still lots of things you can do, I guess.
Yeah, but what are you doing tomorrow?
I actually have no plans. No, I just finished a job I'd been painting, and so tomorrow I haven't even thought about it yet. But
open canvas.
I might go into the studio perhaps, and that's really nice. The tin roof. I hear the rain on that. That will be joyful, and just work on some stuff, I think.
Okay, so you've mentioned the studio.
Yeah.
Let's break it down. So Sammy Phillips, for those watching who are thinking, who the hell is Sam Phillips? For those listening, I should say. Who are you, bro? Label it out. How old are you? Where were you born? And what do you do? Like, what mental, landscape are you living in right now? When you wake up in the morning, what are you working on? What are you doing? I already know the answers because I'm your friend, but let's just lay it out to the world.
Oh, it depends on, it can be so many things on my mind. But, okay, what'd you say? Start with, I am 20.
Who are you?
Okay, yeah.
Who are you?
All right. I was born on the Gold Coast, and I am me. I don't know. It's all been changing so much. I think I used to be really focused on, who am I? What do I... But you really are kind of just what you do, and who it's like I like the idea of being whatever it was, an author or something like this, or what do I want to aspire to? But really, I'm just trying to live happy, I'm trying to do me. I've been working really hard on finding freedom, and I think that's just really resulted in spending time on projects like in the studio tomorrow. I'll be making clothes for Jungle Alley. It's a little design fashion label type human experimental project that I've got with Simone.
Simone, your wife.
Yep.
Okay, so Jungle Alley is your child, so to speak, in the creative sense. That's something I had for a while that I just had never realized, I suppose. I remember I was maybe 5 years ago or so. I wanted to start taking my painting to the next level, and I thought I'm gonna video this and record this, and and I want to show the journey of an aspiring painter and the struggles they go through and what it's like, and then at the end of it I'll make it, and I'll be start off drawing stick figures, and then at the end I'll just have some big painting. It'll finish in, I don't know, a big cheer wave and me on top of it or something. Yeah.
Hey, I'm an artist now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, we feel as creative people, which I believe everyone is creative. I do. I believe a lawyer has to be creative to win that case. Some people think creativity is purely based around art forms like film and music and drawing and painting and stuff like that. But I think
creativity is everywhere, you know. But it's funny how, as an actual creative within that art like space, we feel we're almost kind of like defined by the works that we do. I feel, for me, it's like, because for a long time there, I'm like, I'm a creative, and it's like if someone was like, okay, what have you done? I'm like, well, I haven't started doing much yet, but I am a creative, and it's like, okay, I've realized now, if you are a creative, create. You know, you need to just make whatever it is. So I suppose in your space, you make clothing, Jungle Alley. Tell me more about Jungle Alley, like as what it is now, today, currently.
But yeah, and just to finish on that, like that's what I mean. You kind of are what you do. As like a good friend said to me recently, is like if you're saying something and that you are something and you're not doing it, like then that's a problem. So it's like on that fundamental level, it's just yeah. So no, that's awesome, man.
Jungle Alley.
Tell
us. I feel like people are still trying to figure out who you are.
Oh,
Break
I'm
it
an
down,
elusive
brother.
man. Well,
break it down.
It might take a while to get there.
What do you do for a living?
Oh well, so yeah, Jungle Alley is yeah. We'll start there. Yeah, make clothes, and that has really been, you know what, like I started that off as like a business. So we're gonna have a fashion label and gonna make sustainable clothes, and what really happened was I just ended up falling in love with the whole design process, and then just having things from ideas that actually get realized into things. So just the joy of designing and making, and at the same time, you know, just come off the back of building our tiny house. So it was just something real tangible that we just wanted to keep creating, and so yeah, we that is still functions as a business. We have orders that come through, mostly that's online. We haven't really been out in public that much yet, and but yeah, that's ended up being my only source of income at the moment. I was working and just I had worked, you know, studied full time and then worked full time, and yeah, I've just come out of that now and just diving in.
Okay, so it was almost like a side hustle that now you've gone full-time hustle.
Yeah.
And you're selling clothing online. The clothing, you're making that yourself.
Yeah.
In the studio. And is that literally you're like designing it on paper and going, this is how I want it to look? And then what, you buy fabric, you hit the sewing machine, you hang it up on a, like, is that literally?
Man, that's me, yeah.
Damn,
I have like the
man.
measuring tape around me. I'm like a little, it's like a seamstress, and you know.
Or what, a seamster?
Seamster, yeah, I don't know. It's really funny with the it being like the other way around with the genders there, because say I've got my grandmother's sewing machine that she gave. She was a dressmaker and tailor, actually. So there is some sort of family kind of
heritage
there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so looking through the this was in the late 70s. This manual I was going through the other day, and it's yeah, all the references to like her or she or should, you know, the as in the user, and the picture on like then the picture on the pedal was like of a high heel by pressing it, and I was like, oh wow, I wasn't wearing those shoes today, but yeah, okay.
That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. That it was just thought like a man to be doing that was obviously just wasn't ever conceived to be, you know, and now here you are breaking the barriers.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in there and make it myself. The design part is done with my partner Simone as well. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, really, and just figuring stuff out. I did, when I left school, I studied fashion for 18 months. So I have a understanding of it, but really on a actual practical
level, still figuring lots of stuff out. So it's like,
Yeah.
I like this part of the design, or imagine this, but then it's like, oh, what's it gonna be like? How do you create it? And then is it wearable, etc., etc.
That's awesome. I love that because it's like similar to me. I feel like I had a love for cameras and I'm trying to make a living off it, and I'm figuring stuff out, you know. Like I'll even book jobs. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And then I go home and I'm YouTubing like how to do product photography and stuff, you know. I'm just trying to figure it out. So that's a Jungle Alley shirt you're wearing now, yeah?
Yeah, it is, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jungle Alley, like why would someone buy from Jungle Alley? Like what is it? What's the brand? What do you believe in? What separates you? If it's just clothing, it's just a shirt. You can get a H&M and buy a white t-shirt for $10, maybe $5.
Yeah,
Why would someone shop at Jungle Alley?
For sure. Oh, well, for starters, people somewhat who are interested in sustainable fashion, all our stuff is hemp and organic cotton. We make it in-house, so there's no sort of ethical issue around that.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, really, I'm happy to not even be like right off the back of being sustainable, or that it's slow fashion and not fast fashion and whatnot. But really, I just want it to be good design. And so even this shirt, I was like went out of my way to kind of do the same thing. We all love a tee, but I did this as a dolman sleeve, so it's like this bat wing kind of style, so it's like lots of you get all like it's like a baggy t-shirt, but it's
like one seam as well. Like there's no shoulder seam. Like
no, that's right. It's all this unity, brother. It's all together. This is
that's cool.
Yeah,
you made that.
Yeah,
designed it and made it, and now you're wearing it.
Yeah,
and you sell that.
Yeah,
and where are you selling to? Like just in Australia?
No. Funnily enough, a lot of the orders have been overseas, so that's been really funny.
That's awesome. Like where's the most exotic order gone to? Like,
oh, gee, I don't know. I don't know about exotic.
Exotic's not the right word, but like not just like America Europe or Canada. Really, you've gone to
like Denmark and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, that was interesting.
Dude, that's hella epic. There's someone over in Europe wearing a Jungle Alley shirt. That you made in your studio.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
The internet's
so
a crazy thing, hey? Like that really, I mean, we're just so used to it, but that when you say it like that, it is funny, right? We just don't even have time to stop and think about shit like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing that for?
Oh, coming on a year.
Okay, cool. Okay, and you're selling orders to Europe. That's exciting. It's pretty good growth. And then I suppose my question then, as a creative though, like when you make a shirt, I suppose it's like anything. It's like when a photographer takes a photo, when a videographer makes a video, when a filmmaker makes Christopher Nolan's next film. It's like when you're making something and you're putting it out to the world, particularly for you because you're like selling something. Is there like where does that your like ego sit, or your self-doubt, critique, your pride, like because you're making something? Like has anyone ever bought a shirt and said, hey, this shirt's I'm not happy with this shirt? Or equally does someone say, oh man, this is the best shirt I've ever owned, and it just fires you up? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, we haven't had any negative feedback or any sort of returns and stuff. But in some way, I'm waiting for it. I'm looking for it. Like all we've had has been really positive, and it's like fits great. But I think, and I'm not like I don't ride off that. I kind of expect that. I'm like, well, of course. Like I put a lot of time, and it should be like that, or it should.
Okay. So you stand behind your product, like you believe in it. You
but
know that you've got it right.
Yeah, but I just know
cool.
I'm always just trying to fix things, right? So I'm imagining someone's like, oh yeah, I don't like how it does this, and I'm like, awesome, okay, I can change that. I got to the end of my sort of thing of all the things I could see and what I liked, but then this is the funny thing about. Or what I really like about it as well is just that it is, it's a usable thing. Like it has to function as clothing and be comfortable and be lived in. It's a bit different to, I suppose, like what I was talking about and what I was imagining for myself was painting, that more pure sort of artistic thing compared to this where has this real function side of it as well. So
Yeah, that's true, because if
And
you're
you're
an
in it.
artist and you paint a picture and someone buys that, they hang it up in their house. It's just a visual thing that they see maybe a couple times a day. Where for a shirt, they could literally be wearing that for 8 hours.
yeah, that's right. So it has to be
And then also,
comfortable, usable.
it's like representing them in a way, because your clothing, especially for some people, they go next level. What you're wearing is like who you are in a way. Like for me, most days of the week, you'll find me in just a plain white tee or a plain black tee. I'd say I'm pretty simple with my t-shirt choices, but I believe that that is me. So I think people know that about me. So yeah, I'm very easy to replicate. If someone was going to be like, oh, let's like try to dress up like Mitch or something, it'd be like, okay, plain white tees. And my dad was the same. He always had like a blue wife beater singlet on. It was like, that was all he knew. And I remember at his 40th birthday, everyone was wearing these blue like wife beater singlets, and it was like a surprise party. So when he walked through the door, he just saw everyone wearing those singlets. And it's funny when you have something that actually defines who you are. So I suppose for Jungle Alley, people are they're purchasing that, they're wearing that then becomes them in a way. They're taking something you've made and it's becoming a part of their like sort of persona, their like image. Like someone could wear that to a party and a girl from across the room could be like, hey, I like that guy's shirt, and go over. And a marriage with 6 children could form because of a Jungle Alley t-shirt.
wow.
It's weird.
In
honestly,
some
that shit could
universe that
happen.
is happening. Yeah.
I think over now in Europe that's happening. That dude in Denmark's wearing that tonight and he's getting laid thanks to you. No, that's wicked, man.
But that's the funny thing. That's what I ran from, was that whole identity and vanity side of, especially the F word, fashion.
Oh, really?
Rather
What's
than
wrong with
clothes.
the word fashion?
No, I don't know. Like I find once you start talking to people and you're like fashion, it sort of sounds like trendy or a little bit. When you say clothing or apparel, people are like, oh yeah, I can relate to that. Fashion isn't just sort of, models and people chasing. But that, like what you're talking about, the identifying with it, and that's what I didn't like, and I was like, no, it's materialistic and vain, and you should just be you, and it doesn't matter what you're at the exterior of you is like, which is true. But then I just sort of stopped. But then I found myself kind of like, oh well, it's just something that why would I deny myself something that I like, and to one degree or another, we do all have some sort of identity that. That's really funny, I think, because I don't know.
I can see it sort of churning over in your brain. I'm just going to take this opportunity to stop and start the cameras. We're on 30-minute timers, guys, so I've got to do it manually. But I'll cut this out.
Yeah.
Alrighty, welcome back to part 2 of the podcast. All right, so Jungle Alley, you make and sell clothing. That's working. It's doing well for you. What else is going on in your life? How do you feel? Are you happy?
It has been, I think overall, I'm happy.
Let me elaborate on the question a bit. A lot of people, there's this whole kind of Instagram, YouTube, sort of Gary Vee, hustle your way to chase your dreams and, unlock happiness and working for the man, the 9 to 5, that's just for suckers.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with that part of it. I think it's great if you want to make some sacrifices to try to make something that you want to do rather than falling into a job or something. But equally, I know that there's a lot of people out there that work a 9 to 5 and they love their job and they're like secure and they get paid well and they get holidays and they get all the benefits with it, and that's fine. So I would never personally be like, they're a bunch of suckers, because a lot of these people that want to build something, they want to build something where they're going to employ people, which are the same people that end up working 9 to 5. So it's kind of, you can't escape that. But let me ask you, you've made sacrifices. You're doing full time with your clothing business. It's like, has it brought you maybe not happy? Well, yeah, happiness, I suppose. Happiness and joy, they're a funny thing. But are you, as opposed to working a job and knowing that paycheck's coming in each week, where now you got to hustle it out, grind it out, you're literally like making clothing.
Has it brought me happiness?
Yeah. Are you happier doing this than when you were working an office job?
No. Not necessarily. This is the funny thing.
That's
like,
a huge answer.
I know.
Okay,
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah.
Me.
But not by itself. This is what I had to go through, right? When I was working that 9 to 5 job and, was paying rent, it was just my partner and I and our 2 dogs, just renting in Brisbane and working a job, trying to work your way up in that. And I honestly think, like, I pinned a lot of that responsibility or of happiness on, or the lack of that from, it's the job, or it's because I'm renting and all this. And it was like I forewent. Is that past tense? I was going to say, like, I put the blame and the responsibility on those things. And I thought that's why I'm not, like, fully happy. So I totally offloaded that. But then in a way, I was kind of like enjoying my life as it was. And then we kind of decoupled ourselves with in living sort of situations, and we built this tiny house. And I thought I was going to find happiness in that, and it was amazing. But there's still that feeling there. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe if I have my own business. Yeah, I've always seen myself being, like, oh, yeah, motivation, all that. And then it was good. And it was fleeting. It was just like, yeah, little achievements. And then it went, and I was left on my ass and feeling as though, like, oh, what the fuck? Like, I was doing all these things, but then I realized, even though they're good things or green things and positive things, I was still putting my happiness in things. And I realized that it was just like, whoa, this is actually, it's all in my own head, like that, of what I am making of these. And I was kind of, if I felt underachieved in that, and I ended up being kind of miserable, miserable working in my own business, because I was like, oh, it's not good enough, or I should be doing better, or whatever. And in the tiny house, I kind of like this, or this, and it was just all in my own head, to be honest. And so those things alone didn't bring me happiness. But I mean, I talk to you now, and I'm so happy living in my house. I'm so happy in the studio, but that has come from something else. It's just more kind of like personal realizations and spending lots of time in thought and kind of going over different philosophies.
Tell me
and
more
whatnot.
about that. What was the switch when you made the decision? It sounds like you were putting kind of like targets out in front of you or like goals that were, when I achieve this, it's going to bring me happiness.
Yeah.
So it was the tiny house. It was Jungle Alley or whatever else it was. And you're going, I'm still chasing. I still have that hole.
Yeah.
But now you're saying, through some other personal thought, you've achieved happiness by taking it away off the goals. Talk me through that. Where doth happiness lie is what I'm asking you. For you, because it's different for everyone.
For me, just trying to be right here and being present, that's kind of, a bit of a kind of buzzword, I suppose. It's like being present, man, or be present in the now. Feel grateful.
Grateful is a big one.
And but it is true. I mean, that's, in lots of Eastern philosophy, and the power of the now. And it's just true, man. Like, I just realized that, hey, I am me, and I am here, and just looked around at the world again and just thought, whoa, all of this is crazy. The fact that we're on Earth and flying around the sun inside the Milky Way, and
the sun came up today and provided life for everything, and I'm part of that, and that I was just soil, and then I have this moment where say for my body, and it sort of arises, and it's this brief flowering moment, and then I'll be gone in that. And I think that just made me go, and you just realizing that this is my life to live any way I choose. And that's all. Sometimes I feel like I was living for someone else, and really it was like my expectations of myself and what I could do and what I couldn't do. And as well, all those like goals are great. It's not like, I'm just every single day I live like it's my last. No, goals are good, but at the same time, sometimes you can end up living in the future. And when you're so focused on that, it's just like everything now seems kind of substandard. And yeah, that's really what it's been. It has been bringing that in to here and now, and just realizing that this whole world is just perception. It's just
100%.
how
I agree
we
with that
just bring
so
it
much.
in, and we can choose whether it's misery or joy.
It's hard because I think humans have, like, we're broken, or maybe not broken, maybe it's just the way we're kind of wired for some old survival animalistic way, but I feel humans have it in them to compare themselves to others and to worry what other people think. Speaking about living in the present and living your life, so many people, I would say like 95% of people in the Western world are living their lives worried about what other people think of them. And that's a huge thing that I think about. And you just cannot, like, everyone is living their own life on their own journey with their own circumstances. Everything is unique to every single person that's ever lived or is living. Their life is unique to them. So whatever they're choosing to do with it is on them. Like, it's not, I don't know, there's things that people do that they think everyone should be doing. Like, there's that old like routine of you go to school, then you go to uni, then you find a job, then you find a partner, you get married, you buy a house, you have kids, you grow old. It's like, so that's the routine. Because, for example, we both got recently married. Not to each other, but I got married to my beautiful wife, Carly, and a lot of people say, when he's having a baby. And it's because that's just that natural progression that's instilled in us. That's, well, you're married now, you must be having kids soon. And I just think when we tell people, for us, like when we say, we don't think we're going to have kids, a lot of people are like, the hell is wrong with you? You're not having kids? And it's like we've broken the system. Somehow we're like, this is the human line, and we're all the way over here now because we're not doing what everyone else thinks we should do. And I just think, man, like, everyone's living their own life. We're all doing our own thing for our own reasons. Even people that have, like, alcohol problems or drug problems or whatever, like, you don't know their story. You know what I mean? Like, there's homeless people that people judge. They go, have a look at that bum. What a loser. And it's like, man, you do not know. But on top of that, I do believe we are in charge of our perception of things. Carly, sorry, just to hijack the run here, but Carly said to me recently, I was talking about people having negative things happen to them, and the way that they handle that depends on how they see the world. And then she said they're only negative if that person obviously sees it as a negative. So it was kind of even going further than what I thought, because I thought, if you have a negative thing happen and then you try to perceive it as, a positive to some extent, you can move on from it better. But Carly was like, maybe it's not even a negative. Like, you can just stop it before it even, why is it a negative? I suppose there are some things that would be uniformed as a negative thing to happen. Like if you lost your parents at a young age or something, that would just be a negative effect on you. But there could be someone who goes, I'm a bum because my parents died and I was raised from home to home and I never got the right stable upbringing and I just didn't get anywhere and life's too hard and fuck it all, and that's why that dude's a bum. But equally, it could be like, I'm trying to be the president because I lost my parents when I was young and I want to make them proud or something, and I'm going to go like it's just so different and unique to everyone.
Totally, man. And you really hit on it there with just say everyone comparing themselves to one another, and we've been largely helped with that through our whole lives of being shown that through advertising, and it's been very successful for the whole consumer paradigm that we live in, right? But then there's these side effects of how we feel, and it's interesting, and like you say, breaking that mold. I just even look at it and just like, well, do you want to be in that? It's like this thing where this collective thought and everyone, this is what you do, and to a degree that's good. Like everyone sort of decides some things that are bad, we shouldn't rape. Yeah, like that's good. It's not just sort of this some crazy
that's
free
not a
for all
perception thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I get that, but then
Rape's not funny, by the way.
No,
I'm not laughing at rape, but
yeah, but thanks. Yeah.
I'm saying because we laughed at the
absolutely. But yeah, so there's things that we kind of agree on, and that's like, yeah, keep it that way, keep this kind of community, but it gets to that point where it's like you're doing stuff outside of that, and there's a great bit of fear and negativity or judgment cast upon that, and it's such a weird thing. I mean, you just think about that, say for a life of some sort of like artist or or musician even, it's just like, oh, little Johnny that finishes school and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna be in a band or something like that, and they're like, oh, come on, time to get a job, and you're 30 now and you still got nowhere to live but playing guitar, and you're judged. But then it's just like, then if you make it and that becomes a big hit and you're famous, it's like then society like brings you back in as like a little trophy to like wrap you up in this little present and then probably sell you, really. And but you're up there as like, oh yeah, it's so great, like look at the product of society, and it suddenly you're a treasure.
That's true. You're just making me think that like society almost outcasts you if you are trying to do something different. Majority and perception, they're like the two things that I think kind of govern the world. That's what I honestly think. Like the way that we view things is unique to us, but then also whoever, like whatever, like what's normal? Like normal would be whatever most people do, what the majority do. Like it's normal to wear clothing. So if someone's walking down the street naked, whoa, why is that guy naked? That's not normal. Why isn't it normal? Because most people don't do it. And so these things like people not wanting to go to college or wanting to be in a band that they're not getting any gigs and they're just in their garage and their parents are like, you're fucking 45, like move out of my house, But he's like, no, I'm going to make it. I mean, at that point, depending, there's always an exit strategy somewhere where you'd be like, maybe it's not going to happen. But yeah, that's all that normal is. Whatever most people are doing is what's normal. It's normal to have a job. It's normal to get married and have kids. So it's normal to eat meat.
Yeah, and it's normal to like be kind of destroying the natural system and world that we rely on as well. That's what the funny thing is. It's like, where does it end? And it's just maybe that perception, or maybe it's awareness as well, like that. Like if you're eating meat, and it's fine to eat meat if you want, but if you're doing it and you don't even know and you're disconnected as well, it's just like, oh, this is normal. You're just buying it, but then you look at like the process of what happens and the sort of the whole sort of, yeah, I mean, even here in Australia, it's like majority of like over 90% of land that's been cleared in the last 2 decades in Queensland has been for grazing and for like cattle. For the beef industry,
really?
Basically, yeah.
So
that stuff is real, or just say climate change is kind of happening, and it's normal to like, if they're like, oh, a jury's out, or they say we say, or what's going to happen? Listen to our politicians, and that's normal to just sort of like
even if you're like unhappy with the politicians, you just kind of put up with them anyway, and still end up just being in this system that and then you got to fight it as well, and you're like, yeah, we don't like it, and it's like, but you rely on that as well. You are entangled with it in that way. It's interesting.
Well, let me ask you, yesterday, I think just here in the city or somewhere, there was a protest over climate change. I think it was here in Brisbane.
Oh, was that
Sure.
the Extinction Rebellion?
Extinction Rebellion. I actually didn't see... All I saw on Facebook were these posts about people complaining that it stopped the busway. So people in the morning that were on the buses trying to get to work were unable to get to work because of the protest. You're laughing.
Sorry, I'm laughing because these people are like, oh, I'm trying to get to work. It's just like on any other day, aren't they like doing that same drive? Like, oh gosh, I'm going to get to work. And they're like, oh, yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
let me answer that.
No,
it's very true
traffic
what you're saying.
problems
But they reckon that some of the people on the buses were nurses and doctors trying to get to the hospital.
Dude, totally, yeah.
And they're going, well, I've got a patient who's
Sure.
booked in for surgery or whatever. I don't know. What do you think? Just quickly on that, we don't have to harp on about it, but what are your thoughts quickly on those protests? Because they've been happening in Melbourne quite a bit too, where they block traffic.
Yeah.
And it's like, can they not have a healthy protest without disturbing? Where my wife Carly says that's the whole idea of a protest, is to cause an uproar, to like make the news to upset people so they go, oh. But then I think negatively, it can adversely affect them.
Yeah, and look, I'm not sure what the answer is. I mean, have a strong kind of environmental point of view, and but at the same time, I'm not a protester either. So I don't know, but
don't be a fence sitter here, bro. Don't be a fence sitter.
No, but like, because I have,
are you for it, the way they do it, or should they alter?
But just
the way
not
they
for
do
me
it, or?
personally. That's the thing. I don't know, like whether this whole like right or wrong. Like I understand the function is to try and create a stir and then get noticed and it gets people thinking, or that might not otherwise like, oh yeah, protesting for this and that. And
I always worry the message gets lost because the minds they're trying to change, those people get shitted off with it.
Yeah,
and then the media always portrays it as a negative thing.
I know. Yeah, I reckon that's a shitty side of it because it creates this sort of real kind of polarity. And that's just so much of what's going on at the moment, right? Or like a dichotomy. And it's just people are all so polarized in their opinion. And it's just this shit fight really of just like slinging insults and names to one another, and I just feel like it's not how I'm interested in having any sort of like discussion. But then those stuff happens and then it triggers kind of later, so it's like, yeah, that is not how it's done, but it has a function of creating discussions later on that are more sort of sensible perhaps.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's the value I see in it, but at the same time, yeah, it's totally not my jam. But yeah, I mean, look, it's like these are everyone's jumping up and down at the moment. Scientists are going, things are getting crazy.
They're jumping up and down.
Yeah, they're jumping up and down.
You walk into a lab, everyone's just jumping up
yeah,
and down.
it's like these guys are having a party. This doesn't sound, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's segue. We're kind of going deep here. We're talking about happiness. We're talking about society, self-awareness. Are you self-aware?
I try to be.
What does self-awareness mean to you?
For me, personally, I try and be aware of the voice inside my head that talks and is telling me how things are. Oh, the information that's coming through and making judgments on it, good, bad, whatever. And then I look at that and I try and be aware of like what's behind that voice.
Okay, so you think your kind of instinct, like what is that voice, would you say? Your critical thinking mind that happens like behind the...
Yeah. Your
Okay.
mind, my egoic mind, I suppose. And yeah, I kind of try and be aware of its shaping or how it has been forged over the years of my life, and what are some of its where that is me, you know, that's me and that's my voice. But I'm trying to, being self-aware for me is being able to have a look at that for what it is. Oh, that makes me upset. Why does it make me upset? Oh, well, it triggers this, you know, and maybe that's some of my, that's an insecurity of mine, and I project that out on someone else. That's me trying to be self-aware. Or if I wake up in a bad mood, that's on me. Yeah.
Okay. So you are self-aware. So you think about why you're feeling a certain way.
Yeah.
Rather than just accepting.
Yeah.
I love that. There's a lot of people that aren't self-aware to any extent. They just have so many moods or things that cause them to feel this way or that way, and they just go, well, that's how it is. That's how I am. I can't change that. I'm not even going to... some people are just so reactive in life. They just... yeah, that's really cool. So speaking of insecurities, what are some of your insecurities? And I want you to be really honest with me here. Because we're talking before about caring about what other people think of you. And I think I think I do quite well not caring what other people think of me. And I don't mean with my business. Like, obviously, when I undertake a project, I care what that client's going to think of the work. I care what Carly thinks of me. I care that people think I'm a nice guy. And that's just normal caring. But I don't care if people think that I need nicer clothing, Jungle Alley clothing, maybe. You know, I don't care if anyone's got any negative judgment towards me. It just doesn't faze me. And I think 95% of the time I manage to pull that off. But even I sometimes get insecure. For example, the car. So when I moved back from Auckland a couple of years ago, I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a car because I was starting up a business. So I just bought the cheapest car that I could, which you've seen. It's a Toyota Echo. It cost me $1,700. And it has a dent in the door. And I love it. It's never broken down on me. It's awesome. It's a sweet ride, cheap on fuel. But I know... Now, this is a funny thing. It's not so much me caring about what other people think of it. Like, when I drive around the streets, I just don't care. But if I'm going to a client, like a prospective client, I will not park out the front of that business. Not because I'm oh, they're going to think I'm something or other because of my car in a personal space. But in a business space, I think they're going to go, this guy's driving a Toyota Echo with a dent in the door. He can't be doing that well because I kind of know how other people's minds do think. But I don't actually care personally. But I do have insecurities. But this question's not about me. It's about you. What are your insecurities? What are you worried about? What do you try to mask? And normally we mask our insecurities with excuses. Break it down for me. Now, we didn't pre-run this or anything. You didn't know this question was coming, but...
No, I didn't. But here's my perfectly formulated answer. No, I think the biggest thing on that is, I had been a bit of a people pleaser. And that was... I think it probably stems back to being a child, and I think I did a bunch of different stuff, and there was a bunch of different stuff that I did fairly good at kind of early on, and it was like, oh wow, so lots of positive feedback. And maybe just from my parents just being loving, or people around me like, wow, he's doing a great job. Whether I was just like aware of that, and that just came inside of my head of like, oh wow, okay. And that kind of self-identity formed early with being good at things or aspiring to be good at things as well, right? Like I remember I grew up in sort of a motorsport family, and my brother raced motorbikes, and then I did whilst I was younger in go-karts, and whilst I was that, it's just like, okay, the goal is to be a world champion motocross rider, or a world champion, and then like or like race Formula One day when I was doing go-karts. So I just had this thing of like having to be kind of really good at everything that I did. And that has been, I realized that, even years after I was like not trying to do world champion stuff, but there was just always this thought of like anything that I did would be really good, and people like it. And I guess I was like a nice kid, a nice person, so I got lots of like positive feedback, and so that's what I was just constantly trying to probably uphold this idea of being like a good person or good at something. And in a way, maybe I didn't have to form that on if there's other people telling you that stuff, you don't have to kind of build up your own self-identity. And if it comes from other people, then you're trying to like, for me, I was looking for that confirmation in other people, because I'd never had to just kind of, for some, like, I'm making out like I was this like prodigy of like some kid. Like I wasn't. I probably just like, you know, kicked a ball or something.
But in your mind, you had set these
in my mind at least. Yeah,
yeah,
it
you were
was
like,
huge. Yeah.
I have to put A grade stuff out.
Yeah,
in
like
any form, whatever it is.
Totally.
And then what? Were you putting A grade stuff out, or was it stifling you?
No, not really. Like, I think
was that fear of not putting out the best quality or being the best quality on whichever
just
form
stopped me
you're
from
speaking
doing
of?
stuff.
Yeah,
big time. And so I just wouldn't do it at all, because it's like then I just didn't have. There wouldn't be the opportunity for that identity to be crushed. Like if
it's like a protective thing.
Yeah. It's like, I've got this really good idea for a painting in my head, and then you start and you're just like, oh shit, that didn't turn out how I thought. Oh gosh, my whole idea of myself is exploding. I thought I was amazing. So
I think a lot of people have that. I think that would be very common. I know I've had it. There's that saying, like, don't let perfect stop good, or something like that, you know, like analysis paralysis, where you overthink things because you want it to be of a certain level and you can't see it actually getting there, so you just don't do anything.
Yeah.
I think that happens to a lot of people, so it's very common.
Yeah.
Do you still have that today?
Oh, like I'd like to think that I'd gone through a lot of the work of really trying to identify, first like identify it, and then acceptance of like, hey, yep, that's how I've been, or that's what's going on for me.
Self-awareness kicked in.
Yeah, but the first there's the awareness of that, but then then self-acceptance of like, hey, this is where I'm at. You know, maybe there's more work for me to do than what I thought, and then from that, I felt this real sense of freedom or being liberated. Because if it's just like, if I'm happy with who I am, then, and I'm happy how someone else is, that's all good. If someone else then isn't happy about how it just doesn't even matter then. It's just all good. Like, I just think really you just have to make right with yourself, and then try and see the people that are around, the humans in everyone else that we interact with. So from then, it's like if someone else has got a problem, and it's like, oh, it's kind of their problem. That's what you realize. I think I taking responsibility of my own problems, and then was, you know, other people, you know, usually any sort of kind of interaction that's unsavory is kind of coming from this, I don't know, there's someone else's whole world with their perception and how they're seeing.
Yeah, well, generally if someone judges you with like a negative viewpoint, it's because of their own insecurities. That's one thing I've learnt in the last couple of years. Anyone that is like, oh, look at that guy, he's such a dickhead, or like anyone that says that is their own, they're trying to protect themselves.
Yeah.
From themselves, really, from their own view. Because look, I know for me, trying to make films, like sometimes this is a great short story. So we filmed a couple of weddings, and I avoid watching other businesses' wedding films in fear that they're going to make me feel like my wedding films aren't good. We've made wedding films. I think they look fine. I've sent them to clients. They've said they look great. I'm done. I don't have to open the door of, you know, Pandora's box, because again, I don't know what kind of equipment they're using or what this and that. Maybe my films are better than others. Maybe they're worse than others. Maybe it's just my journey and this is what I'm doing. And it's like you're saying, if I'm happy and they're happy, it's a closed book. But it's a protection thing. I'm like, yeah.
But then that's what I realized. I feel like I've saved myself so much time now, like just overcoming that. It's just like, oh, okay, well,
if you're not somewhere that you thought you are, or say something, you're working on something and it's like, oh, that's not as good as what I thought. And then you can go, okay, well, what stops it from getting there? And then you can break it down and it's like, oh, okay, it's just that line or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing. Like, right? Like you could look at other businesses.
Well, it's only the wedding films.
Okay, well, you could look at the wedding films and go like, oh, that is, and
take ideas from it.
Sure. So you could go, but like, why does that work? And why is mine like not that? And then you could just, you would just do that next time.
Yeah, I look at a lot of other videos, and I look at a lot of other photos. Like I look at a lot of other media to like try to get ideas and inspiration, and look at exactly what you're saying. But for some reason, I think when I shot my first wedding film, I did go out into the world and look at other wedding films, and they were real good. I don't know whose website I was on, but I was like, whoa. Maybe I was probably on like 15K, like, these films are like top notch, like Hollywood style, and I've like stumbled across it. I'm like, whoa, is that what a wedding film is meant to look like? Whoa, I'm not looking at any more wedding films.
Yeah.
But I don't know, but I'm just breaking down I'm just being vulnerable to you, Sammy, because I think we've all got insecurities and funny situations and funny lives.
That's where the gold is, though, in life. I think when everything's going great, that's great. But that's all.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Everyone's happy when they're happy.
Yeah, but like, I think those moments where you they're the things that sprout up that you realize weren't there, that were like seeds in the ground, and if they come up and they're like these weeds or something, and you're like, oh, okay, like you could freak out about that, or you're like, no, my garden doesn't have any weeds in it. But then you know they're there, and then you can pull them out, and then you're like, oh, cool, I didn't know that was there, but it was, and now I've taken action, and it's not there.
Well, you said at the beginning of the show that you're happy with your shirts because there's like a strong quality control at Jungle Alley Studios, where you don't let anything out unless this is A grade, how it's supposed to be. Let me ask you this, because I suffer from, like, I don't even know how to word this, but when I'm working on something, I go through a stage where I think it's awful. I just have this like, nah, this is shit. This is not working out. This is not how I thought this was going to be. What I do now is I'll actually go to a shoot, and I used to look at the images and stuff right away, but I think I was too close from the shoot to looking at them that I would see everything wrong with it. I was still kind of connected to the environment, because I think in that respect you can be connected to an environment. I've always wondered how filmmakers watch their films back, like watching a scene that you or I would be like, wow, that scene really works, that's amazing, but that filmmaker going, well, that was the day that actress was flipping out, and like the explosion, we had to spend heaps of money,
that's not even
that's
just that was the plan B, because we didn't get the
They
nice
didn't
shot
get
that
what they
we wanted.
wanted.
Yeah, it's just like,
Yeah.
the light was wrong on when it came into, we didn't know
100%.
but we didn't have a good take of that.
I don't know how they watch their films and love it, like knowing how it went, how it unfolded. Where for me, I'm like, okay, if I shoot something, I need to have a few days breather to try to disconnect myself from how it actually laid out. It's weird.
Well,
that's just me. I have
surely pretty normal.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. Is it normal? Like when you're making a shirt, are you like, this is not working out. This is not working out. And then you're like, hey, gold.
Yeah.
No, your ego's so big. From that first, you're like, this is gonna be rock solid.
I just just sitting there, like, yeah, righto, like rev the sewing machine up, like, I'm just like, ding, ding, or something, but it's like, zzz.
Well, maybe it's
I'm
a
a
confidence
man.
thing, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it's a confidence thing. Maybe.
I've got a high heel on as well when I'm doing it.
Do you?
Just
Do you wear?
just like the picture.
Is it your Nan's high heels?
Yeah.
The same heels she wore when
that
she was
wore,
sewing?
yeah. Special seamstress heels.
Okay, tell me this. If you could go back to younger Sammy, maybe 16, 17, 18 years of age, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give younger Sammy?
I'd say chill out, stop overthinking things, and just live
your life and the one that make it the one that you imagine. Because the truth is, I had it all kind of in my head of this idea of a life that I wanted to live, and it was just fear and insecurities that like held me back. It's like I still, some of my dreams and aspirations are ones that, and I just think, oh man, I had that since I was a kid, and yeah, it's just unrealized, I suppose, yet. And so it wasn't, for me, it wasn't a shortage of like, oh, come on, man, like get your mind right, or like, I had this whole different kind of world view. I was still me in a sense, but a lot of things went unrealized because I was just too afraid. I don't know, to be shut down or in whatever sense. It was just that I didn't want to have my bubble burst, but really it was a funky little space that I was in anyway. So I think it's just always better to just, yeah.
Oh, that was the camera stopping.
Yeah.
Maybe the battery died. Dude, I think we've ticked well over an hour, so we're going to call it quits here. We'll call it quits. I'm trying to keep the show down to like an hour, so I don't know. I feel like I'm cutting off in like crucial questions.
Yeah, I was just about to cry and release my childhood trauma. I think it's because all right, that's all we got time for today.
I'll give you a cuddle. When the cameras are off.
No, man. Thanks so much for having me. Hey, this has been really good,
dude. Thanks for being on it. Like episode 1, no doubt we'll watch this back and.
Oh man, I'm excited for like the other guests that you have on and what's to come of this. I know you've got an interesting view on the things, and I'm keen to see how you explore that. And
it's all about the guests, baby.
Yeah,
it's all about having far more intriguing people than me on the show.
That's a good idea.
Like yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really going to help
Vista
my ego. I'm back on top, baby. Now I can't do anything. I just sit at home like, Mitch said I'm amazing. Yeah.
Well, dude, you are amazing. I love what you're doing. Jungle Alley all the way. I wish you nothing but success. So what, people, if they want to check you out, junglealley.com.au.
Dude, that's it, yeah.
And you ship worldwide, obviously over to Denmark. If you're in Denmark and you need a hemp, is it hemp? If you need a hemp shirt, jump onto junglealley.com.au. And Sammy, I'm sure we'll have you again on the podcast. Thank you very much for being here today. I appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, man. Peace.
All right, cheers, guys. Thanks for listening and tuning in and watching. Like, subscribe, follow, whatever you've got to do. It's gratuitous. I love it. Stay cool. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.